Good afternoon and welcome once again to the group exhibit, Hydrogen Fuel Cells and Batteries at the Hanover Fair 2016. My name is Christine. I'll be your moderator for this session. Please do come in and join us. Feel free to participate in the discussion. Just raise your hand at any time and I'll come around and give you the microphone. There's table service, and please do come in and join us. Our topic is power-based fuels in the transport sector, fuel cell mobility on rails. Joining me from the National Organization of Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technologies is the Division Head of Transport and Infrastructure, Thorsten Herbert, and Nadja Gläser from the GSA Mobility Innovation Group from Ernst & Young, GmbH, is a senior consultant, and she will be joining me on stage as well. Please join me in welcoming them. Thank you. Welcome.
Hello.
So,
Hi.
Mobility on rails. This is very interesting. I haven't heard of fuel cell technology in trains before. So we're talking about trains. So this is,
Yeah, we
this
do.
is very interesting. So how did this come about? What is the motivation?
Actually, the topic really started, or like, as you might know, we as NOW, we are managing the National Innovation Program, Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technology. And as long as the program is running, since 2006 politically and 2008 operationally, we are trying to get projects also in the rail sector, because we are we want to cover every transportation mode, and we also wanted to cover rail. And finally, 2012, I guess it was, Alstom, really as an industry initiative, approached us. Alstom Transport, as one of the large vehicle manufacturers for railway operation, approached us that they are willing to develop a hydrogen and fuel cell hybrid vehicle. And yeah, we were of course happy as the program management organization, and we now have this program running. And yeah, of course, from the political point of view, and that was also new for me when I got into the topic, that roughly 50% of the national railway grid isn't electrified, and therefore that makes it obvious that we should be interested also as the government to provide options for this non-electrified railways.
Okay, and where does Ernst & Young come into this relationship?
We are working on this feasibility study. So this was something that NOW, together with the Federal Ministry of Transport, tendered last year. And we got into with a consortium of experts from hydrogen and alternative drives, with experts from public transport planning, security, risk, as well as public participation. So this is a consortium of partners. We are leading, so we are the project manager, and we also do the business modeling, but we got support from a whole lot of partners. Just to name them, it's Ludwig Bölkow Systemtechnik, we have TÜV Süd, Signon, EFOC, and Beckner Bildner Held from legal point of view.
Right.
So we are, this is a consortium that is working on this topic since October 2015, and we will finalize the study by the end of May.
Yeah. And actually the motivation was, if I may, that the motivation was to tender the study that Alstom somehow managed to really form a momentum, like in the rail transport community. They managed to sign an MOU with 4 federal states in Germany already in 2014, when the R&D project on developing the vehicles was just 1 year running. So they really managed to get a great enthusiasm into the community. And after signing the MOU for about 50 vehicles the federal states want to operate, it quite soon became obvious that the infrastructure for these trains will be one of the major challenges. Since Alstom is very confident that they will deliver the vehicle, we took up the topic with regards to infrastructure, because to give you a feeling on what we talk about, really operating a fleet of 10 of those vehicles on a common non-electrified route will need 2 to 3 tons of hydrogen a day. When we talk about a conventional car fueling station, as of today, we are building stations that are capable of providing 200 kilograms a day. So that's an order of magnitude, which is quite a challenge. And that was the motivation to tender this study and really to look into the whole process from permitting over what are the technical options and what are the regulatory constraints maybe.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned a while back that 50% of trains in Germany are non-electrified. So they're currently running on diesel?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how does hydrogen replacing diesel compare from an efficiency, a cost, a carbon neutral standpoint?
Would you like to start?
Yes. Well, the thing is, with electrifying a railway route, it is really, really expensive, especially since it's in rural areas. So we are talking about comparably short routes in rural areas where you never know with regard to the future developments in these regions whether this train needs to be operated in 10 or in 20 years. At the same time, you need to tender these trains for 15 to 20 years. So the operators, they need to be sure that there is still a need in 20 years for this operation. And it makes it much more easier if you don't focus only on electrification of the infrastructure, but if you focus on the electrification of the train, like to have an alternative drive. So you are more flexible when it comes to using the train in different locations. So that makes much more sense.
The trains create a more modular, flexible system.
Yes,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so why don't you just continue with diesel in that case?
Well, the thing is that the federal states, some of them, they have the goal to have emission-free public transport within the next 10 years. So this is a really important topic, especially for regions where there's lots of tourism and leisure activities. And the emission-free public transport is a goal that is being set in several, not only cities, but also federal states, also in rural areas. So that is important.
So emission-free considers during driving if you source your hydrogen from renewable sources. So where have you looked at where you're getting your hydrogen from?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, definitely. It was one part of this study. What technical options do we have? Where are the hydrogen sources? Of course, operation of public transport is very much focused on cost effectiveness. Therefore, we also have to consider the byproduct hydrogen sources. For example, North Rhine-Westphalia and Hessen have available byproduct hydrogen sources. Even North Rhine-Westphalia has a pipeline system.
This is a company or a utility?
No, a hydrogen pipeline, which is operated by Air Liquide. And they are actually looking for, when they choose the demonstration route, they are actually looking into how do we manage to connect to this existing infrastructure with regards to the pipeline and use a very cost-effective hydrogen for the operation.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned a demonstration project. Have you chosen where that will be and the size?
Yeah, so it was actually defined by Alstom and the partners when they signed this MOU in 2014. Mm-hmm. The text says that each of the federal states, one will tender 20, I guess, and the other 3 will tender 10.
Trains had 20 trains?
Right.
Okay. Yes.
And that adds up to 50. So they agreed on operating these 50 trains on their depicted routes. And the timeline for that is that at around 2020, 2021, those 50 vehicles should be on rails.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when does, if it's going to be operational in 2020, when does construction begin, or the building and design of the locomotives?
Actually, the project which we are currently funding within the NIP by Alstom foresees that at the end of this year we will have 2 prototypes available for Alstom doing their homework in vehicle validation. But they will go by end of 2017 into really customer operation in Lower Saxony, so like around the corner here. There we will, already in 2018, we will gather first experience really in customer operation.
Mm-hmm. That's very exciting.
Exactly. Yeah. So this pilot route, if you may call it like this, it is in the northern part of Lower Saxony, around Bremerförde, and it is a really good route because we can do maintenance and repair right in the middle of the route, and also, of course, the fueling of the vehicles. And there are lots of stops, which is also efficient. We may talk about this later on. This will continue, or this will start in 2017, and within our feasibility study, we are doing a concept for this specific pilot. And maybe to add to the demonstrators, not only Lower Saxony but also Hessen, Northern Westphalia, and Baden-Württemberg will be the federal states that start with their demonstration projects. Yeah.
So you mentioned maintenance in part of that route. So can you compare the operation and maintenance costs of fuel cell vehicles versus other alternatives?
Well, the good thing about maintenance and repair with fuel cell vehicles is that it's much more cost efficient than with diesel trains. This is something that we learned. So when you compare a diesel train and a fuel cell train, of course the development of the diesel train of the fuel cell train will be more expensive. But on the other hand, the efficiency is much better when it comes to topography, when it comes to having a lot of stops because of the braking and the recuperation, and when it comes to maintenance and repair. So we think that we're around 80 to 90% costs of diesel train maintenance will be around for the fuel cell trains.
Is it possible also to compare capital costs of the locomotives?
Well, this is something that we are still working on. So we think that it may be in a range between 20 to 35%, but this is just something that we need to validate with the OEM, of course.
25 to 30% when compared to electrification or to diesel trains, or?
No, we thought that our benchmark is always the diesel train and not the electrification, and so it will be 20 to 35% compared to a diesel train.
In addition to 25 to 30% more than a diesel train.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair. Cool. But you operated over 10, 20 years, and if that's cheaper, maybe plus you're gaining.
And we are talking about really the first 50 or like really the first vehicles are the first like 2 vehicles, and yeah, I think it's really also homework of the OEM finally to fix the market price there. So, and yeah.
Yes, this is something
we don't want to say too much also to that.
Sure, I understand.
Now, when it comes to economic efficiency, it's of course very, very difficult to compare a new technology to an existing technology and infrastructure. So we had lots of discussions around this. So how do we compare the diesel infrastructure, which is running for more than 100 years, to a new hydrogen infrastructure? And what we are doing in our study is we introduced a correction factor for new technologies, especially since we are talking about existing structures and processes within the transport operators and within the commissioning authorities. And this is something you need to include whenever you want to have emission-free transport. You of course need to deal also with what comes next, and this is of course difficult with new technologies and innovations.
That's understandable. I'd like to open up the floor to questions at this time. And if there's not, I'd like to clarify. It's not clear to me who owns what. Who owns the trains? Who owns the infrastructure? What is the business model?
Okay. Yes, this is of course not a question you can answer for all the operators, because again, public transport, it always depends on the federal states, and the states and also the associations for public transport, they have different models of operating. And you have, on the one hand, you have, every time you have the commissioning authority, the Aufgabenträger, and they are responsible for organizing that the public transport is being carried out somehow, and they are tendering the service. And then you have 4 main tasks when it comes to hydrogen and fuel cell vehicles, and this is of course the provision of the train. Then it's the provision of the hydrogen infrastructure. It is maintenance and repair, and is the final execution of the transport. And how you organize these 4 tasks is up to the commissioning authorities or even to the federal states. And there are different models, and what we see now, maybe because there are lots of models, but the one that we see can work would be the one where the commissioning authority is tendering all these 4 services at once, in one process, in one Los, we say in Germany, and then the one service provider offers both the train and the infrastructure, including the hydrogen, so that the commissioning authority can rely on the service of the train and on the provision of the hydrogen. Because, of course, this is very new to the whole market, and no one really knows where the obstacles might be. And then it's up to one service provider. Maybe it can be a joint venture, maybe it can be one provider, maybe the OEM, who is then responsible to bringing the train on the rail, and responsible that the hydrogen is always coming, and the operator can do his job, just doing the transport service.
So unfortunately, we're running out of time.
Sorry.
I apologize. I know I asked a difficult question right at the end, so it's my fault. But you can get more information.
It's basically on just providing 0 emission kilometer. So.
Okay.
That's the whole package.
And they can find more in...
we have a teaser of the first results of the study with regards to feasibility of the infrastructure. I think I provided some to the tables here. We have them at the NOW booth.
At B56, correct?
Right.
Yeah, just down here. Please do feel free to visit them and ask them more questions. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about this in the future. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So next up, we have an interesting topic with many questions, and hopefully we'll hear the answers. It's decentralized, lower cost, fit to size and demand, modular, expandable, is that possible? So all from Rouge H2 Engineering, we have Victor Hacker, a consultant, Sable Huang, a president, and Florian von Hoffen, the CEO. Thank you very much.